Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9, the wake up call. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever stood at the edge of a new beginning, hands trembling, heart racing, not because you weren't ready, but because you were afraid? Afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, afraid of not being you. There comes a time in every life when God places before us a challenge that requires not just skill, not just knowledge, but courage. You may be battling silent storms, fighting private wars, facing doors that seem impossible to open. But this is the moment that defines destiny. This message is not just a word of encouragement, it is a divine awakening to your strength. Today we break fear. We rise because heaven is still saying, be strong, be courageous. It's a command, not a comfort God doesn't ask. He commands. He told Joshua, have I not commanded you? Why is this important? Because strength and courage are not personality traits. They are spiritual decisions. Many of us wait to feel brave before we act. But God says, act brave, and the feeling will follow. Joshua was stepping into Moses' shoes, a massive task. But God didn't offer him comfort. He gave him instruction. This shows us that when destiny calls, obedience outweighs emotion. Too many of us are waiting for fear to go away. But what if the presence of fear is not a sign to stop, but a cue to trust? Real life example. A young woman started a tech company with no funding, just a vision. Every night she cried in fear, but she kept showing up. Today, her company employs over 200 people. Why? Because strength is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Decision to move forward in spite of it. Strength is built, not borrowed. Strength is not something you stumble into. It's cultivated like a muscle. You don't get stronger by sitting still. You get stronger by facing resistance. When God told Joshua to be strong, it implied, train your soul, discipline your heart, discipline your heart, feed your faith. You see, Joshua had already spent years serving Moses. He was not just stepping into leadership, he was prepared through process. Your private training seasons matter. David killed lions and bears before Goliath and bears before Goliath ever showed up. And you've been through too much, survived too much to doubt now. Take this story. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When asked how it felt to fail, he said, I didn't fail. I didn't fail. I found 1,000 ways it didn't work. That is built strength. Strength is not genetic. It is generated. And every trial you faced was a spiritual gym to build your endurance. Don't waste the pain. Use it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the mastery of it. Courage is not an emotional high. It's a spiritual discipline. Courage is what you do when your knees are shaking, but your spirit says move anyway. Joshua had seen the giants. He'd spied the land. He knew the danger. But courage said, the size of the opposition does not change the promise of God. Every great act in history was fueled by courage. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, not because she wasn't afraid, but because courage overruled fear. Courage creates moments that shift history. Here's the truth. Your future will always demand more courage than your past. Growth is uncomfortable. Courage is the passport to your next dimension. So don't wait to feel brave. Stand up, speak up, show up. Courage is not a feeling, it's a choice. Fear is a liar, not a leader. Fear is deceptive. It inflates the problem and minimizes the promise. But let's be clear, fear is a liar. It tells you that you're not enough, that you'll fail, that it's too late. Joshua could have listened to fear. 10 out of 12 spies already had. They saw themselves as grasshoppers in the eyes of giants. But fear didn't stop the walls of Jericho from falling. It only delayed the victory for 40 years. Fear paralyzes potential. Studies show that 85% of what we fear never actually happens. Yet we build entire lives around these imaginary chains. Here's a fact: fear tolerated is faith contaminated. Kick fear out of the driver's seat. Let faith drive. Discouragement is a distraction from destiny, and do not be discouraged, God said. Why? Because discouragement is a subtle thief. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It convinces you to quit silently, to stop dreaming, to settle. But your calling is too critical to be silenced by temporary emotion. Think about Elijah, mighty prophet, yet discouraged and hiding in a cave, asking to die. But God sent a whisper, not a storm, to call him out. Sometimes all we need is a word to get up again. Discouragement wants to drain your drive. Don't let it. When you feel low, don't isolate. Connect. Encourage yourself. Remember why you started. Look back and see how far you've come. God's presence is the game changer, for the Lord your God will be with you. That's the difference maker. Well, Joshua wasn't told to be strong because of his army or intellect, but because God was with him. The presence of God is not a theory, it's a force. It turns ordinary people into history makers. Moses said, "If your presence doesn't go with us." That's because God's presence shifts the atmosphere, breaks chains, and opens doors. Your confidence should never be in yourself, but in who walks with you. The disciples were ordinary men, but the presence of Jesus made them world changers. Don't focus on what you lack. Focus on who you have. Ah. Obedience unlocks the promise. Joshua didn't just believe, he obeyed. He followed instructions precisely, even when they didn't make sense. Marching around walls, staying silent for 6 days, it sounded foolish, but obedience unlocks divine strategy. Hmm. Some of us are praying for breakthrough but ignoring instructions. Faith without obedience is fantasy, real life proof. A woman felt led to leave her corporate job and start a home for abused girls. She didn't understand it fully, but she obeyed. She obeyed. 10 years later, her organization has rescued over 500 girls. When you obey divine direction, you step into supernatural provision. Destiny requires movement, but wherever you go implies action, movement. God is with you, but you have to move. He blesses motion, not stagnation. Too many are waiting on God, but God is waiting on them. Faith is not passive, it's active. Peter walked on water because he stepped out of the boat. Destiny is not found in comfort zones, it's found in uncomfortable obedience. It's in the risks, the leaps, the yeses that make no sense. So move forward, even if it's scary, even if it's slow, even if no one claps, just move. Because God cannot direct a parked car. Be strong, not because life is easy, but because God is faithful. Be courageous, not because the path is clear, but because the promise is sure. Do not fear. Do not be discouraged. The Lord your God is with you every step, every season, every storm.